Hi, this is the Behmor 1600. We just recently purchased this unit for Christmas a few days ago, and I'm just doing a roast here with 1 pound. This is from Kenya, auction lot 738, Mara Peaberry, and this is a bean that I've had for quite a while, so it's a little bit older. We'll see how it turns out. I first learned about the Behmor a few years ago when I met Joe at the Specialty Coffee Association show over in Minneapolis, and I was actually using a RK drum at that time, and also had an IRoast. And since then, the IRoast has become rather defunct and needing several parts, and the IRoast folks don't appear to be making them anymore. And our RK drum still works just fine, but our grill setup isn't really conducive at the moment to using the RK drum. So we went ahead and got one of these Behmors, and so far we've been real impressed with the way it works. And we've done about 3 roasts on it, and I think this will be the 4th now. And everything has turned out really well. We've been real impressed with them. So I'm running on 1 pound B and P2. And that's 20 minutes. I have the light on so we can see in there, and I'm going to go ahead and hit start. You do hear the fan running in the background that is just getting a little airflow. You do get, with the lighter roasts even, there's not a lot of visible smoke, but you do get that odor in the air, so I'm trying to minimize that. I'll move the camera in here in a little bit and get closer so we can see the beans, but I'm going to go ahead and just get it started now. We can add a little time to this if we need to. I think that we're able to add about 1:30 to this level of roast. Use that with care, because it does get quite well done. If you really add the time to it, you're talking about a fairly dark roast from what I've seen so far. Because I did do one test batch. I think this might be some of it, and actually this I think is actually a mix of a couple of different things. But regardless, some of them there are pretty dark, and that was one of the darkest batches I did on here. The batches I did after that were lighter. So we'll go ahead and let this run a little bit. I'll just step aside, but I'm going to be watching this. You do want to keep it supervised while you're running it, and pay very close attention when it gets further along. The first few minutes, it's just going to be heating up, but then you want to be able to listen as it gets into first crack, and listen carefully if you're going to be moving towards second crack. But it's an appliance that you want to supervise. You're dealing with a lot of heat. You're dealing with something that can potentially combust if you roast these beans too long, and sometimes that can be pretty fast. The difference between City Plus Vienna and fire can be a minute or so, so that can go pretty quick. So you really don't want to have an appliance like this with a pound of beans starting on fire. The only real experience firsthand I've had with that has been in the RK drum and the grill. I didn't have my beans too dark. It happened earlier in the roast. I had some grease in the grill that hadn't been thoroughly burned out, and it was enough to ignite and start burning a little bit, and then it started my beans on fire. And I had about 4 pounds of beans that ignited, and I know it wasn't the beans being overdone from how short I was into the roast. I was only 6-7 minutes into a roast, but when it actually caught fire, and it was a significant fire. So we'll let this run for just another minute, and then I'll look and move the camera in closer as we move into first crack here. Alright, we're at 15:20. I'm going to go ahead and move in just a little closer. The Behmor has a very nice light and viewing window on it. You get a real good look at the beans. You can really see what's going on in there. As you can tell, this video looks like it's pretty focused in, nice and clear. I just want to comment on one thing I forgot to mention earlier. They do recommend that you maintain 18 inches of clearance around this entire unit between this and other objects. In this video, I do have this placed closer to the wall and countertop than that. So if you do that, you do it in your own peril. I have watched, and in the roasts I've done, I have not found that it significantly heated up the objects around it to any meaningful degree when I had it closer than the 18 inches, but just want to pass along that is the official manufacturer recommendation and is probably not a bad idea for safety, but it also makes it hard on a regular 25-inch deep counter to have it 18 inches away from everything. You'll notice the Behmor is really nice and quiet. You can just hear the rotisserie motor going, so you can actually hear quite well what's going on with the roast and when you get into first crack, which, oh, that might be the first pop right there, first crack. The little bit louder, deeper hum you hear in the background is my room fan. I'm going to just turn that off for a few seconds so that you can hear what just the Behmor sounds like. So there we go, the room fan's off. So what you've heard here just the last 10 seconds, that's just the Behmor with its internal fan and the rotisserie motor that turns the drum is running. We also heard just a couple more cracks there, so we're not really rolling in first crack yet, but we're getting close. We're at 11:30 right now, so 8.5 minutes into the roast. I'm going to flip the room fan back on. We're just getting to the stage where we start getting the room filled with a little bit more smell. That early stage of roasting coffee. You're going to start smelling this around your house. Not smoky, but you definitely have that aroma. I just heard a few more pops, a few more cracks. My guess is that we're actually in first crack right now. And we just heard a couple early pops before. We're getting a little stronger smell now. My guess is because this is a smaller bean that we're going to have a slightly different roasting time than we would on some more average sized beans. I've also found the smaller beans can be a little less distinct, a little less descript in their sound entering in the crack stages than larger beans are. And also, since these are older beans, they're over a year old. Actually, they may be close to the 2-year range. The moisture level may be changed. That may have an effect on what they sound like in the roasting time as well. So, just to keep that in mind. While we're waiting for it here, I just want to mention another thing. Your line voltage does make a difference on here. It's a subject that Joe has mentioned several times about the Behmor. The average line voltage in a house in the U.S. is going to be 120 volts. With any even relatively inexpensive digital multimeter, such as you can get one for about $10 from Harbor Freight, you can read the line voltage on an outlet. There were some more cracks. We're getting even a stronger smell in here now. And see, the beans now are getting more to a light brownish stage. That the green is pretty much completely gone now, and the way this looks right now, it's real light. I would guess it's around cupping roast, or maybe a little darker than that. Take my roasting opinions for what they're worth as an educated guess from someone that has done a few roasts but isn't terribly experienced. So we're definitely getting a much stronger smell from it. Still no visible smoke. I'll finish up my comment about the voltage there. If you're running anything significantly below 120 volts, that can have an effect on this, just as it can affect any other resistance appliance. So that may potentially extend your roasting times. If you do find yourself having problems with the roast, Joe has mentioned that you may want to try another outlet. You can just try another one in your kitchen. You may simply have a poor connection in one outlet, or you could potentially try an outlet that's in your basement closer to your service panel. That's going to have a shorter run, have less voltage drops. So you're going to have a higher voltage at an outlet that isn't as far away from the panel. So some electrical services may simply be running it from the power company at a little lower voltage. So if that's a problem and you find it's a problem down by your electrical panel too, you may have to talk to your power company about it, or have an electrician come in and look things over and take some test measurements right at the panel and verify that that is the voltage coming in. Not something I expect a lot of people to have to deal with, but it's something to keep in mind. We have 1:30 left right now, and I would say we're getting closer to second crack here. Now the timer's in the last minute. Just for ease, I'm going to add some time here, even though I don't anticipate running it that long. We're up to 3:15 now. The machine does, as I mentioned before, max out the amount of time that you're able to add to it. That is a very good thing, because it's real easy otherwise to make a mistake and to run it way too long and set the bean on fire. I have read reports of people starting fires in these. Alright, we're just getting into second crack here. I'm going to give this about 20 seconds into second crack, which should make us like a city plus roast, somewhere around the full city range. So we're starting to give off a little bit of visible smoke now, and that's been about 20 seconds, so I just went ahead and hit cool. Now the roast is it's already so hot that it's gonna roll and keep roasting for about another 20 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer. Let me move the camera back so you can see this a little bit better. You can see the visible smoke that's being put off by the machine right now. Move the camera up. So, this stage, you're going to potentially be setting off smoke detectors in the area. So keep that in mind. Anytime you get it rolling into second crack, you're going to be throwing off some actual smoke. It's not going to be able to. Burn up that smoke internally, and you're going to see some of that leaking out of the machine. The full City Plus is the darkest roast that they suggest, and honestly, looking at this now and seeing it cracking still, I am suspecting that this is going to be a darker roast than I had hoped for, and that we're going to probably have some oil coming out on these beans. I think it'll be okay for espresso, but it's going to be a pretty dark roast. So I think I got carried away with talking here and misjudged this roast a little bit, to tell you the honest truth, because there's going to be a pretty good amount of smoke in here, and I have a feeling a nearby smoke detector isn't going to be too long from starting to beep. Been cooling for a little over 2 minutes now. I believe it started at 13 minutes of cooling time on this, if I'm correct. We're hearing very sporadic pops now. We're still seeing just a little bit of smoke coming off of it, much less than before. In the next minute or so, I would say that smoke will be gone. So just again to reiterate, the darkness of this roast, this is the very darkest that Behmor recommends taking a roast, 20 seconds in the second crack. So, and that is pretty dark. So most people that are doing their home roasting are not going to want to do these really dark Vienna French type roasts anyway. Some people like those for espresso. I've actually, the one I did the other day that was probably about this darkness level, I found it to really be too dark to drink. So your sweet spot is going to be somewhere between that second crack phase and first crack in one of the city roasts for most coffees. And actually, I might have done better if I had just stopped this roast right at the beginning of when I heard second crack instead of waiting those extra 20 seconds. If I had let the timer run out for the last 2 minutes or so there, this would be closer to charcoal. And no amount of milk or vanilla syrup would have made it drinkable. I'm going to move in closer one more time and just drill the beans. Camera's trying to focus in there, but you can see these are fairly dark right now. It's going to take a couple days of rest before you see any visible oils on the beans if they've been roasted that dark. It's like the IRoast, I noticed the oils a lot more quickly, but there's a different style of roaster, the IRoaster there, as opposed to the, this is a drum style, which is more like more similar in concept to what's used commercially. Generally large scale coffee's all going to be, as far as I know, for the most part, it's going to all be roasted on drum style roasters. That's pretty much what I've seen. Again, this was a full pound of coffee, set at 1 pound, setting B and P2. The Behmor automatically selects the amount of time for the cooling cycle, which it'll enter automatically once roasting time runs out, or you can hit the cool button at any point during the roast, and it's going to automatically go into cooling. Just keep in mind that from the time you hit cool, when you hit that, it's going to take this roast a little while to cool down. You've built up some momentum on there, and they say to think your roast ahead about 20 seconds. Actually, what I've seen in here from the last few batches, and I'll know more after a little more experience with this machine, it looks to me like it is more than 20 seconds that you should be thinking ahead of your roast. At least with the settings I'm using out here, that it's more like a good 40 seconds ahead that you should be watching it. So I think next time, my next experiment I think is going to probably be when I hear those first couple cracks of second crack, I'm going to hit cool immediately instead of waiting 20 seconds into second crack. And you know, potentially now that I have a little better feeling for this particular bean, I don't have a lot of this left. I can time it a little better based on what I saw during this roast. So it's not a bad idea to take notes on your roast. Take notes. This I typically do is I write down when first crack started. You can write down when it ended or how long it lasted, when second crack started, and how long you let the roast go. Then next time you can look at it and you may want to go, say if first crack started 7 minutes in, second crack started at 14 minutes. You may want to next time run the roast with 3 minutes after, 4 minutes after second crack, or I'm sorry, after first crack starts. So then you end up being, say, a total of 11 minutes on that example roast, and you're 2 minutes shy of second crack stage. It's going to give you a lighter roast, it's going to get into that steady roast range, which is what you probably want to shoot for with a lot of coffees. You know, again, as I mentioned, this roast is definitely on the dark side. If you're roasting for friends that are used to your average American coffee that you find in the grocery stores, they're going to probably think this roast is just fabulous. It's going to be very similar to the dark roast that we're used to here, that the average coffee drinker is used to. Though it's going to be much darker than you get from the specialty roasters in general. Okay, just over 3 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and let it run so that I can open up the door and show the clock if we don't stop. It does actually get pretty cool by the time that it's done with the cooling cycle. The last couple times I was really impressed with it was pretty cool to the touch, and I took out the coffee fairly shortly after it had stopped running. I'm going to just reach over another room here, grab my heat-resistant gloves. I really don't think I'm going to need them on here, but I want, for the purposes of the video, I want to go ahead and be able to pull this out right away when it's done cooling. Just about a minute left. I'm going to go ahead and pull the camera out, give you a wider view here. Just some final comments here as we're in the last minute. If you don't have friends that are going to take your darker coffee, or if it irritates you to be potentially blowing a pound at a time, go ahead and do some smaller roasts, some you know, quarter or half pounds, and you know, give those a try. And I probably should be experimenting with a little smaller roasts, but usually I land the roast close enough that I find someone that's willing to take it and drink it. Don't do that while it's roasting and hot. I think it's pretty cool here, but alright. Now, this is the chaff collector. I'm just pushing down this handle and sliding this out. I have a fair amount of chaff from this coffee. Alright. I'm lifting the drum out on the side and then sliding out the pen. Let's see, there's a fair amount of chaff in there. We're going to let this cool just a little bit more and then go ahead and vacuum that out. You can see the amount of chaff we have in this coffee. Now this, let me open the end up and have a good look at this. Alright. This is, it's not super, it's not burnt. It's I guess I would say this is around a Vienna roast. I think that's too far gone to call it City Plus. So I'd say this is probably Vienna. A lot of people would use this for espresso. This is probably a little dark for this bean and probably killed some of the more subtle flavors to it. So that's it. That's a quick overview, run through of the roasting on the Behmor 1600, and should give you a little bit of a place to start if you have one of these units. I'm going to just set this back in here for the moment. And you do have to make sure you get this pin in the far side. There we go. And then have this lined up and set into this little notch over here. And that's it. So feel free to shoot me an email or make a comment on the video if you have any questions that I might be able to help out with. Otherwise, I can put you in touch with some folks that can help you if I'm not able to help you out. Thanks, and happy roasting, and enjoy your coffee.